Welcome to DIYPhotobits.com and this video about how to use Camera Control 2.1. In this video I'll talk about how to use the 2.1 version of the Camera Control script from DIYPhotobits.com. The installation is the same as for the previous version, so I won't go into any details on that. But basically you can just double click the file you've downloaded and go through the installation wizard. If you've installed the previous version, 1.0 or 2.0, then you should uninstall those first. Okay, to make it more interesting, let's try this outside. I'm going to use the tripod and do a self-portrait with some balancing of flash against ambient. Camera onto the tripod. I'm no expert at this kind of photography, but the DIY camera control script lets me try things out, and that's always a good learning tool. Okay, here's a light stand, a bamboo light stand, as I posted earlier. A bit of extension there to make it taller, and we'll put an SB600 onto the light stand. The SB600 has a nice little foot, which is a convenient accessory. It means I can use some elastic cord to wrap around that and very conveniently mount it on my bamboo light stand at the right height, get it positioned correctly. We need some USB cable, standard USB cable, and an extension to make it nice and long. One end goes into the camera. Now off to get a laptop. I'll be using an old ThinkPad I have, which has got quite a nice large screen there. It's a little bit of a slow computer. Okay, plugged in and we're ready to go. Okay, here is the script running. So we have the camera plugged in, but the camera's not turned on yet. So let's turn the camera on now. Now the camera is in PTP mode, not mass storage mode. So when you turn it on, when it's plugged in via USB, you may get a dialog box pop up that asks you what kind of thing you want to do with this, like, download the images to, well, here in my computer, download it to Word of all things, the Microsoft Scanner and Camera Wizard, Photoshop. We don't want to use any of these because we, of course, are going to be using the DIYPhotobits.com Camera Control 2.1 script. So I'm going to cancel that dialog box. So at that point I can select my camera. If I have more than one camera device plugged in, I'll have a choice when I click this button. But in this particular case, there's only one valid camera connected. I've connected up the D300. I now have the connection established. It says camera connected D300. And the camera was in M mode before I connected it. Now I'm going to select a folder here to save the images for this demonstration. By default it shows me the My Pictures folder, but I'm going to put it into a temp folder just for this demo. So here we are, we've selected the camera, it's the D300, we have selected the folder where the images will be stored, that's C temp images. Now the whole idea is that I'm going to have some control over the camera settings while it's taking photographs of me. So I do not have to rush over to the camera to either take control of the camera or to see the results. I'm going to be able to see the results on the screen here. So I'm going to be using this section mostly to control the camera, the shutter release. And I'm going to be doing JPEGs because it's faster for this demo. And it also gives me immediate previews here without using another application. So I'm going to click the download immediately button. So as soon as I take an image with the shutter release button here, it will be downloaded. So let's try that now. I'm in manual mode, 30th of a second. Ooh, it's quite bright here. That's too long. Let's try 200. There we go, 200th. And I'm going to release the shutter. There we go. Of course, I'm staring at the computer while this happens. So as the image is downloaded, you'll see that I'm looking sideways, which is rather strange. I'm also a bit small in that. So let me bump up the preview size slightly. And let me do it again, but this time I'll look at the camera and that way you'll be able to see a little bit more clearly how I'm posed, which is the idea. Ooh, looks like I need to fix my hair. Now, the exposure is obviously far too hot. Notice I'm ISO 800 at the moment. So is it, let's see how hot is that? Maybe a stop or two on my face, but much more on the background. So I'm going to knock this down to ISO 200. Try another one like that. Much nicer on the background. Sky is still blowing now. I think I need to be somewhat less than that. So let's bring my shall I do with the aperture? No, how about to do it with the shutter speed? I'll bring my shutter speed down to, let's say, 250 and aperture down to 5.6. And take another one there. There we go, we're starting to see some blue in the sky there and some details here. Now, the problem of course is my face is pretty dark, and of course I was prepared for that. I was expecting that, which is why I earlier set up my bamboo light stand with my flash on it. Okay, so let's turn on the flash on my bamboo light stand, which is to camera left and to my right, and see what we get from that. Okay, so that's lit up the side of my body quite well. Rather too much really though. It's probably been better just to focus in a bit on my face. So I think we need a little bit of a grid spot here. Okay, I'm using the collapsible paper grid spot, which I showed you previously, and I've slipped that on to the flash, which is going to give me a rather narrower beam. And there you go, it's focusing a little bit low, a little bit on the side of my face, so I need to angle that up slightly, and we'll try again. Okay, we've reached the limit really of what we can do with viewing in this application, so I'm going to switch over to Bridge here, which I have watching the folder, so that I can get a little better view. Okay, so that shows us some detail there. It's not terribly good contrast here, or rather it's excessively contrasting on the face. Let's try and put a little light on the other side. So I'm going to set up another flash on the other side of me, and let's try that again. There you go, you can see it's a little hot around here, so obviously we need to bring that down a little bit. So from here, if I reduce my aperture by, let's say, 1 stop, that's going to darken the whole image, but I want to keep the background at the same level, so I'll bring that up to, say, 125, and then we should get the same exposure on the background, but a stop darker on my face. So there you go. As you can see, the background is very similar exposure, but the face is definitely darker and more in the correct range. So let's look at that. That's the one where the face was too hot, and if I bring up the metadata for that, right, you can see there's f5.61125, 1/250th, and then over here I move the aperture down to f.8. We go to 125th, and I end up with the same exposure on the background, which is quite nice. So this is about right. Okay, so that's all for now, and I'll do another video to show some of the other features later on.